Get on that plane. Go straight home. Check under your bed. You'll know why when you get there." She said it so quietly I almost missed it. The woman at the gate, older, maybe 70, wearing a yellow cardigan that seemed too cheerful for an airport at 6 in the morning. She pressed my phone into my hands like she'd been waiting for me specifically, and when I looked up to say thank you, she was already walking away. I stood there holding my boarding pass and my phone and felt something cold move through me that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. My name is Simone. I'm 31 years old. I work in contract law, which means I spend my days looking for the exact language people use when they want to hide something. I am not superstitious. I do not believe in signs. I believe in evidence and documentation and the kind of truth you can timestamp. And yet, I didn't board that flight. I told myself I just needed coffee, that I'd catch the next one, that the woman probably had dementia and I'd feel terrible if I didn't at least make sure she found a seat. I told myself 100 rational things while I walked back through security, collected my checked bag, and got into a cab home. My fiancé, we'd been together 4 years, engaged for 8 months, was supposed to be in Denver for a work conference. He'd left 2 days earlier. I'd been flying out tonight to surprise him, meet up for the weekend, make a little trip out of it. His idea, actually. He texted me the hotel name, told me to book the flight, said he'd leave a key at the front desk. He was thoughtful like that, always one step ahead. I got home at 8:17 in the morning. The apartment was quiet. I dropped my bag in the entryway and stood in the kitchen for a long moment listening to nothing. Then I remembered what the woman said. "Check under your bed." I laughed out loud. Alone in my kitchen, I actually laughed. Because I am 31 years old and a contract attorney, and I was about to check under my bed because a stranger in the yellow cardigan told me to. I checked under my bed. There was a box I didn't recognize, not a box that had always been there and I'd forgotten about. I know what lives under my bed. I'm obsessive about it. 2 plastic storage bins, winter sweaters in one, tax documents in the other, and nothing else. This was a shoebox, brown, like the kind that comes with dress shoes. It was pushed against the far wall, like someone had slid it back deliberately so it wouldn't be seen from the doorway. I sat on the floor for a full minute before I touched it. Inside was a prepaid cell phone, powered off, and underneath it a folded piece of paper with a handwritten list of dates and what looked like dollar amounts. The most recent date was 11 days ago. The amount next to it was $47,000. I didn't recognize the phone. I didn't recognize the handwriting. But I recognized 3 of the dates on that list because they lined up exactly with weekends he told me he was traveling for work. My hands were steady. That surprised me. I'd expected them to shake. I didn't turn the phone on. Not yet. I put the box exactly where I'd found it, pushed back against the wall at the same angle, and sat on the edge of my bed and started thinking like a lawyer instead of a fiancé. Because here's the thing about contract law, you learn very quickly that people don't hide things that are innocent. Nobody keeps a secret phone in the shoebox under their future wife's bed because everything is fine. He had been at my apartment 2 weeks ago. He had a key, again, for emergencies. That's what he said when I gave it to him, back when I thought I understood what kind of man he was. He'd stayed over while I was at a work retreat in Connecticut. He was watering my plants, he said, checking on things. I had a plant. One. A pothos on the kitchen windowsill that required almost no water. I got up and opened my laptop. I am not a private investigator. I am not a hacker. I am a contract attorney who is very good at finding what people leave behind in documents, and I started there. Our shared Google Calendar. His email, which I didn't have the password to, but whose recovery phone number I happened to know was still his old number, the one he'd given me when we first started dating and never updated. The number he'd said was disconnected 2 years ago. It took me 40 minutes to get into a related account. I won't say which one or how, because that's not the point. The point is what I found. Wire transfers, going back 14 months, not from him to him. Small amounts at first, 300 here, 500 there, from an account registered to a woman whose name I didn't know. Then larger. Then the amounts on that paper under my bed. I Googled her name. She had a LinkedIn. She worked in property management in Phoenix. She was 34. In her profile photo, she was smiling in front of what looked like a new construction building. In her most recent post 3 weeks ago, she'd written, "Grateful for new beginnings and the people who make them possible." He had commented with a red heart emoji. I sat with that for a moment. Then I kept going. The hotel he'd told me to fly out to this weekend? I called the front desk and asked if they had a reservation under his name. The woman who answered was very polite. "Yes," she said, "we do. A suite. Checking out Sunday." I asked if the reservation was for one guest. She hesitated. "Two," she said. I thanked her and hung up. Here is what I knew by 11 a.m. on a Saturday morning. My fiancé had a secondary phone he kept hidden in my apartment. He was receiving money from a woman in Phoenix in amounts that didn't make sense for any normal transaction. He was in Denver right now with someone who was not me, staying in a suite he'd told me to fly out to join him in. I knew one more thing. 8 months ago when he proposed, I'd been so happy I'd signed almost everything he put in front of me. He'd been thorough about it. Estate planning, he called it. Being responsible before we combined our lives. He had a lawyer he trusted, he said. Old family friend. We wouldn't even need to do a prenup because we were doing it the right way, protecting each other mutually. I'd read the documents, but I'd read them like a woman in love, not like an attorney. There's a difference. I hadn't read the property rights clause the way I should have. I pulled out my copy of those documents now. It took me 20 minutes to find it, a modification of beneficiary language in my life insurance policy that now named him as sole beneficiary, superseding my sister. I'd initialed it. I remembered initialing a stack of pages while he poured us both wine and told me how good it felt to be building something real. The document had been slipped in between two others with nearly identical headers. I would have caught it immediately in any contract that crossed my desk at work. In my own life, in my own kitchen, with the man I was going to marry pouring me a second glass of Malbec, I had missed it. I also found the clause about the property rights on our prospective joint assets, the condo we'd been planning to buy together after the wedding. He'd structured it so that in the event of my death or incapacity, his interest would supersede any other claim. Combined with the life insurance change, it painted a picture I really didn't want to be looking at. My stomach dropped, but my mind kept going, because I wasn't on that plane. I was sitting at my own kitchen table with my reading glasses on and every document in front of me, and I was very much alive and furious and thinking clearly for the first time in probably 8 months. I called my sister first, not to cry, to ask her if she had a notary friend. She had 3 questions. "Are you okay? What is happening? And should I come over?" And I said yes, I'll explain later, and yes. She was at my door in 20 minutes with a notary stamp, a bottle of water, and the good sense not to say anything until I was ready. I spent the next 2 hours on the phone with my own attorney, a woman I'd clerked for in law school who owed me approximately 40 favors, and we went through every document line by line. She used a word I hadn't let myself say out loud yet. She said it carefully, like she was placing something fragile on a table, premeditated. Insurance fraud. Possible conspiracy. Asset manipulation under fraudulent pretense of marriage. She asked me what I wanted to do. I told her. She said she'd have documents ready by Monday. But I wasn't done. I turned on the prepaid phone. It needed a PIN. I tried the obvious ones first. Nothing. Then I tried the year we met. Then the date of our engagement. Then a number I'd always found odd. A 4-digit sequence he used as his gym locker combination that he'd mentioned once. The month and year his parents divorced. It opened. I won't describe everything on that phone. I'll say this. The woman in Phoenix was not the only contact. There was another number, local, with no name attached, texted sporadically over the past 6 months. Short messages, meeting times, confirmations, and one message sent from that phone to that number 3 weeks ago that said, "She'll be on the Sunday flight, suites booked under my name. She won't look at the room service charges. She never does." I photographed every screen. I emailed the photographs to myself, to my attorney, and to a private cloud folder I've kept since law school, a habit a senior partner drilled into me. Always have a backup that lives somewhere no one else can reach. I also texted copies to my sister, who was sitting on my couch eating crackers and pretending to read a magazine. "You've been very quiet," she said. "I'm almost done," I said. I put the phone back exactly where I'd found it, replaced the shoebox under the bed at the same angle, same position. Then I went to my closet and pulled out my go bag. I keep one because I travel for work and because I am a person who believes in being prepared, and I made sure it had everything it needed. Then I sat at my kitchen table and drafted a text to him. I spent a while on it. Language matters. What I sent. Flight was delayed. Probably won't make it out tonight. Miss you. 3 dots appeared within 40 seconds. That's okay. Rest up. I'll make it up to you when I'm back. 40 seconds. He'd been waiting. I showed my sister. She looked at the screen for a long moment and then looked at me and said nothing, which was the right thing to do. Sunday morning I sent another text. Feel like something's off with the rescheduled flight. Think I'll just see you when you're home Tuesday. He called instead of texting. I let it go to voicemail. His voice on the message was warm, a little tired, the way he sounded after a long day. Hey, you. I was looking forward to seeing you. Don't stress about the flight. I'll see you Tuesday. Love you. I played it twice. I used to love the way he said that. I used to think he meant it. I saved the voicemail to 3 different places. Tuesday he came home at 7:15. He had a tan. He smelled like someone else's soap. He kissed me on the cheek and asked what was for dinner like we were already married. Like this was already the life he'd been planning to inherit. We ate. I was normal. I am very good at being normal when I need to be. After dinner, he went to check on something in the bedroom, his words, and came out 2 minutes later, looking exactly the same as when he went in, which meant he'd checked under the bed and the box was still there and everything looked undisturbed and he was not worried. That was important, that he was not worried. I've been thinking, I said as he settled onto the couch, about the wedding timeline. I want to move it up. He looked up. Yeah? I've been waiting long enough, I said. I want to be your wife. He smiled. It was a very convincing smile. I love that, he said. Let's do it. I nodded and smiled back, and underneath that smile my attorney had already filed 3 motions and the insurance company's fraud department had already received an anonymous tip and his access to our joint financial planning account, which he'd convinced me to open, where I'd moved a portion of my savings at his suggestion, had been quietly frozen pending a compliance review I'd requested Friday afternoon using language I knew would trigger an automatic audit. Wednesday morning he woke up to 11 notifications. I was already dressed, sitting at the kitchen table with coffee, watching him walk in with his phone in his hand and his face doing something I'd never seen it do before. There's a problem with the account, he said. Which account? I asked. The joint one? There's a freeze. Some kind of compliance thing. He was looking at his phone, not at me. It's probably just a glitch. I'll call them. Sure, I said. He called. I listened to his half of the conversation. His voice stayed level for about 90 seconds and then something shifted in it. Just slightly, like a building settling. He hung up and told me it might take a few days to sort out. That's fine, I said. Take your time. An hour later, my attorney called him. He took the call in a bedroom with the door closed, which was how I knew he finally understood that he was not in control of this anymore. He came out 15 minutes later. He didn't look tan anymore. He looked like a man trying to remember his lines. Simone, he said, I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. About what? About some documents from when we did the estate planning. He sat down across from me. I think the language might have been unclear. I want to fix that. Okay, I said. My attorney can coordinate with yours. I don't need my attorney. I think you do, I said. He leaned forward. His voice dropped in that way it used to, back when it felt intimate. I love you. Whatever you think you found, I promise you, this isn't what it looks like. I looked at him for a moment, thought about $47,000 wired to a shoebox, thought about she'll be on the Sunday flight. She never does. What does it look like? I asked. He didn't answer. That silence was more honest than anything he'd said to me in months. He left that evening. He didn't slam the door. He didn't threaten me or beg. He walked out with his overnight bag and a face full of calculations I could finally see clearly, and I stood at my window and watched his car pull away and felt something I can only describe as the absence of weight. My attorney tells me the fraud investigation is ongoing. The woman in Phoenix has her own attorney now. He was served with civil papers last week. The wedding is, obviously, not happening. The insurance company reversed the beneficiary change within 72 hours of my filing. My savings are fully recovered, frozen in time at exactly what they were before I ever let him into my accounts. I changed my locks. I changed every password. I took back my spare key. I did all the things you're supposed to do, and I did them methodically, one by one, because that's the only way I know how to do anything. What I don't know is who she was. The woman in the yellow cardigan. I've been back to that airport twice since that morning. Not on purpose exactly, but I fly for work and I found myself slowing down near the gate where she spoke to me, looking for a flash of yellow, for those particular eyes. I never see her. I don't know if she knew what she was sending me home to, or if she just knew something was wrong, or if she knew nothing at all and I've constructed meaning around a random act of kindness from a stranger who noticed I'd dropped my phone and wanted to make sure I got it back. But here's what I keep coming back to, she said. Check under your bed. Not go home, not call someone. Under your bed specifically. How would she know there was anything under my bed? I don't have an answer for that. I've stopped trying to find one. What I have instead is this: my savings, my name, my apartment, my locks changed, my documents in order, and a pothos on my kitchen windowsill that I water every Sunday without being reminded. I'm fine. I will be fine. And on the mornings when I'm not, when I make coffee for two out of habit, or when I catch myself starting to explain something to someone who is no longer there, I think about a woman in a yellow cardigan at 6 in the morning, pressing my phone into my hand like she'd been waiting for me specifically, and I think I listened. That's enough.